Welcome back. You here with Goldberg. Today we'll be discussing the last hurrah of the boomers. So maybe a month or so ago, someone was imploring me to go out and support this strong, patriotic, conservative American who's going to do what's right. And I just went, you see, I can recall in 2010, back when I seriously was invested in politics, I felt they were going to try to balance the budget, be sincere, that figures such as Nikki Haley, Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, they were Tea Party firebrands. They were the future. They were going to save the country as we know it. And now they attract derision from Trump supporters. I would almost prefer a rhino who's open to compromise and fixing problems to some demagogue who's going to stand up there yelling and fundraising for the duration of their career while nothing improves, even marginally. More recently, had a talk with a couple of boomers, and I said concerning Trump and Biden, they're both in cognitive decline, Biden worse, to be sure, but this is the last grasp of a generation that doesn't want to give up its power. As you can imagine, didn't go over well. Ah, that's offensive. Trump's gonna MAGA. Now, if you recall in 2020, Biden was underwater. And almost as though the rest of the candidates had received cue cards from on high, they drop out. He, by acclamation, becomes the nominee. Funny enough, at the same time in the UK, the Labour Party was doing something quite similar. Generic center left cream cheese guy who's non threatening. This is what the Democrats required to win against Trump. You could say, oh no, he stole the election. If you don't believe there's enough morons in the US to elect Biden, I don't know what to tell you. I wouldn't talk about it in terms of rigging because Trump admitted he had lost. I think they're both in on it. It's like a pre recorded tape. So Trump figured he could fundraise and be the anti establishment guy for the next election, and Biden could seize the medal as the defender of soy democracy. But what's happening more recently, it appears the script says Trump wins this election. Because if you notice, Democrats are very disciplined. They close ranks, circle the wagons. They do not engage in cannibalization of their own kind. When there was that debate, even though for years people have said he has issues, maybe Parkinson's, whatever, as soon as he does that single appearance, and these are the ones who've been saying he's our only hope to save democracy, the next, couple minutes after, they're all calling for his beheading. Now, explain that to me. It's almost like they got the text message, yeah, now you have to speak in this way, even though Democrats don't usually do that. And it's strategically inept. 5 months before the election, you're going to replace him with Kamala, who no one likes, or you could do who's the other guy? Gavin Newsom, but then they'll say, oh, you don't trust black women to run the country. So there's no easy way out. They should have just solidified around Biden, keep him in his basement, and he could still beat Trump, but focus on Trump's record, which was pretty mediocre as president. He got basically a tax cut through, not all this America First stuff. Instead, they went after him in the courts, and I do think Trump is guilty of crimes, but still, politically, it looks bad. And it sets him up like the persecuted guy who's anti-establishment, anti-incumbent, hint, hint, like 2016. So now the meme repeats itself, and people actually think that they're sovereign because they write their little check mark on a piece of paper. I don't know what to tell you. What perplexes me is why the boomers never address Social Security and Medicare, because they could have done so without affecting their own interests. Still, we only have a decent sized component of Gen X. The Zoomers and Millennials have no power. So the boomers could have said, after 1999, you get a 401k and a coupon to urgent care. Or better yet, Social Security coloring book, some Crayolas, and a participation ribbon, but you still have to pay taxes to support us. These people would be crying, the younger generations, but they're not going to be able to do anything because they don't control the government. Who knows? Perhaps that speaks to the claim about boomers where they were never able to measure up to the legacy of the World War II generation, so they decided to screw over everyone who came afterwards as this, you know, butthurt punishment. As for Trump's second term, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I already did a separate video on the subject, but there's all this chatter regarding Project 2025, the conservative plan to reshape the federal government. And this all sounds fine and dandy, but Remember the filibuster. Most of the sitting U.S. senators, including John Toone, Joni Ernest P. Worrell, they said they want to protect it. And that means you're not going to see much of this put into effect. If you recall Quaker Oats Paul Ryan, he had the Path to Prosperity on Medicare, and it was DOA in the Senate, despite people claiming, oh, he's going to kill grandma. Then Trump released these budget proposals, and progressive males were all around the internet. Who's going to take care of our black trans children and boomers? Did they ever come up for a vote? Not that I'm aware of. These are ideological, prospectuses. They don't amount to anything if you can't enact them in the Senate. Doesn't matter if the House might deal with it here or about. And if they maintain the filibuster, you're going to get exactly what I talked about. 2025, we got to extend the tax cuts, spend 8 or 9 months, and then perhaps take another crack at Obamacare. But this big, we're going to reshape. It would be cool to see it occur, by the way. I'm not anti it per se. You privatize PBS, and to deal with this strain, Big Bird has to begin selling pot on the side. Miss Piggy starts turning halal tricks for Roosh V and Hamza. Kermit the Frog's like, well, maybe if I give my daughter over to that bold cell. What else is going to be your path forward? Now, even this Project 2025, to my understanding, would not balance the budget. It's not pulling us back to the brink. It would just be kind of entertaining to see some substantive change to the federal structure, even if it's just moving stuff around and selling some assets off. The grander question surrounds this SCOTUS ruling on immunity for official acts. I was not 100% sure they were going that direction, although, as I talked about in the conservatism book, there's a trend towards aggrandizing executive power. You can recall when Barack the Booty fragged that Muslim cell American citizen, no real repercussions. So this makes me want to consider, what if Trump rounded up, say, 2 million illegals and put them in camps by the southern border? And he goes, your daily rations will be 1 Dorito de los Mexicanos taco and an 8-ounce glass of powdered horchata juice. As you know, this is not the best type of intake, so many people would begin dropping like flies due to diabetes or constipation. The left goes, human rights of brown people. But he goes, oh, it's an official act, sorry. It's just a wide open expanse of possibilities, whether or not it's going to be pursued by Trump, because he seems to be played out. And like I said, he's going into cognitive decline. You're going to see it over this term. All the pressure, being overweight, the bad diet, he's going to exhibit it more and more. Although perhaps he'll do a few things here and there. He buys you time, young men, as I told you many times before. That's why you vote for these conservatives. It's not because they're going to change anything, but they can better the circumstances while you look for your exit strategy. In closing, I want to pose a query to the audience. As boomers face the unavoidable reality of their expiration, do you think they're going to allow themselves to rot in peace? Or are they going to begin exhibiting much hostility? Or are they going to go postal, depending on which side they originate, towards the left or the right? Are they going to directly target with violence younger generations like Zoomers or Millennials? I mean, to be honest with you, I see the looks of hate from these people, even in my community when I drive, and you see them at like a four-way stop. You just tell they want to reach for that little cane, the multi-pronged one, the balancing act you see on TV, and just bop you on the back of the head or do something worse. So I am curious. I suppose with people born in the 60s that still technically count as boomers, they could extend their power a bit longer. But those from the 40s in particular and 50s, I think they're more or less played out. And we're going to see the throes of agony as they come to terms with their fate and their future.